Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Staying Extraordinary. This episode is very special because I'm joined by a special guest, and I'll let her introduce herself right now.
Hey all, my name is Mariam Shah Khan and I am the Minnesota DECA president, and I am so happy to be here with Asher. This is such an honor to be talking with him today, and yeah.
The honor is all mine. I am such a fan of Minnesota DECA, such a fan of you and everything that you're doing. I've been stalking you on Instagram and LinkedIn for a while now, and I'm so enthusiastic about Minnesota DECA, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next. You guys are just such an amazing team. And without much else to say, let's get started. So to start things off, tell us a little bit about your DECA story. Why did you join DECA? What made you stay? Why did you run for state president? Anything that you think that is important to share, now is the time to do so.
Yeah, so I think it started all in 8th grade because I come from a family, pretty personal, but I come from a family of 2 older brothers. And so I felt like I was always kind of pushed into the activities that they did because I always aspired to be like them. And so they did sports, speech and debate, and I loved that, and I always wanted to do it in high school, but I was like, I want to do something different, put the Mariam touch into it. And so I was just like researching things that, my high school does, and I was like, business, that's pretty interesting. And so that's where like the DECA journey kind of began, and I kind of was like stalking like the Minnesota presidents at that time, like the Minnesota state officers and like the international officers, and I was like, wow, they're so cool. And so I kind of went into like this kind of search engine kind of thing, DECA everything, and because I'm kind of that person of like just researching everything that I can get to know on the internet. And so I was like, that's really, really cool. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give it a try. And I went, and I really own it to my chapter officers at that time for my high school, because they were the ones that were so welcoming, and it felt like a very welcoming community. And that's why I love DECA so much, because they made it like a DECA family, because we always say that, and it is very true. So that's how I kind of got into DECA.
That is so relatable. Basically, like, a third of our new members at my school's chapter are all like younger siblings of like people who used to be in our chapter. So I mean, I always see like these like family connections that like lead kids to join DECA. And I don't know if your brothers necessarily did DECA, but like having them be interested in business is really a great way to get like other people interested in as well, like the family bonds that kind of like cause that interest in business from a young age. And to further emphasize your point on a chapter officer team creating family bonds, that is so important. I would not be as like dedicated to DECA as I am today if it was not for my OG chapter officer team from when I was a freshman. I came into DECA, I was such a bad freshman. I was like all over the place. Like my teacher hated me, my advisor used to hate me, which is so ironic because like I went on to be like the chapter president, but he did not.
Yeah.
But the only reason I stayed in the organization and I got really dedicated is, one, because of how amazing and fun it is, but it was amplified by my chapter officer team and people I can look up to, an upperclassman. So if you're a chapter officer or like association, if you're just an officer in general, there's always people watching you and stalking you. As you said, you were stalking some officers above you. That sets such an amazing example for students every single day in this organization. So I just think that statement is a great testament to what DECA is as a family.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. That was an amazing answer. And you're going to hear me say that a lot, because whenever someone answers a question I have, they always answer it like perfectly, like they take the words out of my mouth. So I mean, I'm betting that you're going to continue the trend. So
I mean, DECA makes us very personable. That's one thing DECA has taught me, and that's exactly what you're doing right now. So
yeah, I'm in role play mode right now, and I have to I have to go over my PIs and everything. Nah. Okay, so you told us about your DECA journey and what caused you to join and run for office, but tell us a little bit about yourself. This can be inside of DECA, but it can also be completely outside of DECA. What makes Mariam?
Yeah, so I think I'm very involved into, at a young age, I didn't have kind of the resources to have all those activities because I went to a small private school. And so coming into a public school, I really wanted to kind of branch out and do the things that I really liked because I loved speech and debate. That's a big part of my identity at high school. And I think it's because of the further purpose. And this is getting really deep, but my further purpose has always been to kind of help and serve people and support people and empowering everyone into, because I believe that everyone has this potential. And so
that is so true. Sorry, I didn't try to jump in there, but that is so important for you to, yes, that is so true. Sorry, okay, continue.
No, you're totally fine, because I think empowerment is something that is super important, especially as a CTSO. Like, we are basically student-led organizations, these clubs that we do at school, and it's super important to get involved because I was a very shy person and I definitely wanted to become more, I guess, outgoing and more confident in my own skin and like not be nervous every single time I went up on stage. And so I think that was pretty big of joining speech and debate, and also DECA, like those handshakes, like the 7-Eleven impression, all the things that you get to know in DECA, like it will take you so far. Like I tell my dad and he's like, wow, 7-Eleven impressions. So like the first 7 seconds, they'll have 11 impressions of you for those of you who don't know. But it's like super cool of how much these student-led organizations can do to help other students and support other students.
100%. I agree with that, like 1,000%. The major, like, one thing I learned during my association officer term is that when you're a state officer, even a chapter officer or an executive officer, when you're an officer in general, you have so much opportunity to make other students' lives better. I mean, as a state officers team, you can raise money for your students through association campaigns, and you can encourage them to do chapter campaigns to give back to their community. I mean, DECA, one of its core values is advocacy. Like, when you look and dissect DECA down to like the bones of the organization, there's so much emphasis on helping one another and getting students to just give back to the people that made them who they are. So I love how you said that that's the most important part of CTSOs, because yes, they are to prepare us for our future careers, but how are you going to be prepared for your future careers if you're not prepared as a person, you know?
Sure, yeah.
It teaches so much empathy and it teaches so much sympathy for other people. And I've never seen a more dedicated group of students than kids in DECA or other CTSOs.
Yes.
So I love that. I think that's so important to preach, and you are just blowing me away with your answers right now.
Thank you.
And speaking of lessons that DECA has taught you, what is one thing that DECA has taught you personally? I mean, this can be about literally anything. It can be about your leadership journey, or it can be just about test prep, or basically, what is the one thing that you've learned about yourself or about the business world that DECA has taught you?
It's to be like adaptable in like the most, because I've been on my chapter officer team and being like an SBE manager, it's really, really hard if you aren't adaptable, not just to like simply just the trends of today, like getting in those, TikToks and reels and stuff like that, but it's also in like being adaptable with my other leaders that are serving with me on my chapter office team, or whatever capacity it is, whether it's on the school level, association level, or the national level. It all comes down to how well you can adapt to other people's leadership style, because everyone's different. When I came into kind of leadership roles, whether in DECA or outside, I had this kind of trouble of like not being able to kind of adapt, because it's like, well, they're not doing it, the way, and it's like everyone's different. And that's what makes a team when you kind of become adaptable and take your niches and collaborate and compromise. A lot of things about teams are about compromise and about being adaptable to other people's leadership styles. And without like my DECA advisor telling me, well, Miriam, everyone's different, and that's what makes us who we are. And DECA really taught me that. It's like, to be a good leader is to be adaptable and to be understanding.
That is so true. I mean, one of the major things that I learned during my association officer term is that everyone is different. Like you just said, when I walked onto my state officer team, there were 6 of us, and we all came from very different walks of life. I got to meet people from all around the valley in Vegas. And I come from a very small school. Like we all live in kind of like a bubble. So being able to burst out of that bubble and meet new viewpoints and different opinions was so amazing because yeah, we did argue about certain things at sometimes, but that's just the natural process of getting your program of leadership done. There's going to be conflicting views, but that's so important to learn because when you enter the workforce, you're not going to be with people that are just like you because no one is just like you individually. So by joining DECA, I've met like thousands of people that are all 100% different from me, and I wouldn't have it any other way because I mean, I'm not joining this organization to just fit into a crowd that's all the same. What makes DECA so special is that there's so much diversity in the organization, and I think that's also what makes DECA so amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
And talking about what makes DECA so amazing, to you, what makes DECA so special? This can be about your individual association, or this can be about your chapter, but what makes DECA, what makes it super special to you?
Everything. There's so many things to talk about. I think it's really just like you were talking about, the diversity, and coming from like having 50 events that are very, very different. Like when you try to explain to people that don't know DECA, you're like, well, there are role plays, but there's also presentation. I was just saying that like it's about the diversity in the events of what makes it so unique. It's like, so if a person doesn't really want to do one event or doesn't feel like that's their niche, they can still do it to see if they like it, but they also can, figure out their strengths. And that really helps in the real world. And I also think it's like the diversity of just the people that come from different walks of life. It's really important to stress that diversity. I mean, we're an all-girls team, which is super, super cool. I think that's what makes Minnesota DECA special this year. It was such a coincidence, but I think that is so cool. That we're all girls, but it goes to show you that all of us come from different walks of life, but it's really important to empower people, especially coming from a marginalized community. Seeing people that look like me on that stage was very important to me, and to just increase membership or to tell people what DECA is, it's really important to have that diversity. So I'm really glad we have that here.
100%. I think diversity is so important. One thing that I really love is how a lot of these associations in DECA have like DEI movements and different like plans to create and celebrate diversity in their individual states and in DECA as a whole. And it's so important to see students of all types on that stage winning glass. And I think that's also something that makes DECA special. And I really loved when you said that because I have met so many different types of people that I wouldn't meet in my regular life, and it's great to see them equally represented in this organization, just as I am equally represented as well. So, I mean, I think it's just so special that an officer team can always be completely random, but there can always be things that bring them together. Like you said, it's like an all-women team for Minnesota this year, and I think that's so fun. I love it when there's an all-girl team or all-guy team. I think it's so iconic. I think it's so special. I feel like there's always like these little fun things that we can celebrate in DECA every single year. So I think that answer really hones in on the fact that DECA is like nothing else. Okay, continuing on this like why DECA trend, how would you pitch this organization to any potential member that may be watching right now who's thinking of joining?
I would say that first of all, just do it. Just do it. That's the best thing that I can say, because it's like, it doesn't matter if you have a totally extroverted personality or a totally introverted personality. There's something that makes you you, and there is always time to enhance that. And high school is, and even the college level, collegiate DECA, it's an amazing opportunity for you to enhance your skills. Whether or not you want to go into business, that's what I would always say to people when I'm pitching it. It doesn't matter if you don't want to go into like be a finance pro. You don't have to be a finance pro. You can simply, you can go into whatever field that you want, but what makes DECA so amazing, it's those life skills. It's those soft skills that will carry you throughout the rest of your life. And things that probably 40-year-olds don't know in their job.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off. Sorry, continue.
No, I just finished what I said.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned so much about business through my competitive events too. I feel like if you want to get into business, leadership, or literally anything, you can be interested in medicine or I'm drawing a blank, but you can be interested in any career field, but DECA will prepare you for that career field as well because it doesn't just teach business career readiness, it just teaches career readiness in general. It makes you ready to enter any occupation or any workforce that you're looking into. So I think if you're interested in becoming a professional, which I'm gonna be honest, most students are looking to join the workforce at some point,
Yeah.
DECA is the way to do so. I feel like I've gotten job lineups after my association term was over too. So I feel like if you want to prepare and want to get interested in business, that's the time to do it, to join DECA.
Yeah. Like everyone's got to talk to people, so you might as well know how to, right?
That's so true. Uh, my public speaking has improved tremendously because of DECA. I mean,
Yeah.
I still have issues sometimes when it comes to speaking to huge crowds, but I mean, I can go on stage and talk to a stage of 1,000 people, and I could have pretty much no worries. And I accredit DECA to any success I have when it comes to my future social life because it really just taught me how to talk to people in a professional manner and how to talk to people in a casual manner. So that's also an amazing answer. Okay, focusing away from DECA as an entire organization and focusing back onto you, tell us about your individual plans for this upcoming year, Ms. President. Do you have any programs of leadership that you're personally working on, any projects, whatever you're doing that you want to share right now to make this organization better? Now would be the time to do so. And this is my favorite part of any interview that I do because I love hearing about each state's and each officer's individual goals because I think it's so important to promote that.
Yeah. So I definitely have many things that I would love to do, but I also want to keep it real because I know that everything that I want to do, because I am a very idealistic person and have all these aspirations, and I would love to do every single one of them. But I also want to keep it real with making sure that I can execute what I promise to do. And one of those things is that I definitely want to, I know this sounds really broad when I say it, but get to know more chapter officers from all the districts. So we have 7 districts in Minnesota. And so chapter visits, obviously, we can't do every single one of them, but the chapter visits, I just don't want it to be a meet and greet. I want it to be something beneficial. And I was talking about it with my officer team, and we are planning to do kind of like workshops. So whenever we go for chapter visits, we want to do kind of like how to do an elevator pitch, handshake introductions. Like those are the little things, like those soft skills, or increased DECA membership, kind of like a, leadership kind of activity kind of thing where we're really engaging our audience. So it's not just like a meet and greet, because it is something where we want to make sure that we're always enhancing our knowledge and our skills. And so that's one of the things that we definitely plan on doing. And another thing is that I want to do, and we touched on this before, but it's just branding how DECA is just perceived as this business club, which it is, and it's amazing. But I want people to know and understand that it goes beyond that. And something really, really important to us is kind of emphasizing those soft skills and shifting the perspective. So kind of interviewing DECA alumni would be kind
I
of
did the
weird.
same thing last year. Yeah, I did a little series where I interviewed a DECA alumni from Nevada. So it was really great to hear that you're doing that too. Okay, sorry, continue.
No, totally fine. Yeah, because I think it's really, really cool. Like whether it's doctors or whether it's entrepreneurs, there's so many different fields where DECA is applicable. And I want to really put that into practice, not just by saying it, but also showing it. And then the last thing is kind of putting that service mindset of kind of having more service-oriented activities at, SCDC, and also our fall business challenge, which we do have. So it's kind of getting ready for the competitive year in the fall that we have for Minnesota DECA, which is super cool, and kind of supporting those community advocacy groups in Minnesota is super important to us as a whole team. And also something really, really cool, which I also heard Nuha talking about, and I saw it on Instagram, and she was posting about how her and her sister she's Wisconsin DECA president and Wisconsin HOSA, which is super, super cool. And my really, really close friend at the high school that I go to is the Minnesota HOSA president-elect. So that would be so cool to have a collaboration with them. So I'm definitely stealing ideas from Nuha right now.
I love that. I don't know if you heard, but in the video I said I was a HOSA and DECA kid myself. I'm the HOSA and DECA chapter president at my school because I love CTSOs so much. I may be really bad at HOSA.
Cool.
I may be really bad at HOSA competitive events, but I understand how the organization is run. And crossing over, there's so many things similar about the two organizations because they're both international. They both sometimes share management companies with how like the CTSOs are run. There's a lot of crossover there, and there's so much collaboration and advocacy that could be done between the two CTSOs. So I really love to hear that this idea is catching on, and I mean I could definitely link you too. We could all work on something together to like make this big CTSO collaboration thing because
and Minnesota and Wisconsin are literally right next to each other.
Yes,
so.
yes. And I know Nevada's kind of far away, but I'm connected to the HOSA officer team too. I was on the nominating committee for the HOSA officer team, so I kind of like chose who was running for what. So I know exactly like all the people from the HOSA team. I served alongside the current HOSA president in her original term. So I mean, if you guys ever want to work with Nevada HOSA and Nevada DECA, I mean, I will make sure that I can try to get it to happen. I mean, this CTSO collaboration is so.
That would be very cool. Nevada, Minnesota, Wisconsin.
we can rope some more in. We can do like a whole nationwide thing. We can do that. I feel it.
Pretty cool. Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. We can definitely work something out. Yeah.
So if you ever need my help, I'm here, and I love those ideas so much. CTSO collaboration and advocacy for your chapter officers are all such amazing goals, and making sure you get to know your leaders on a personal level because DECA is run by association leaders, but it's also run so much by chapter leaders. I mean, on the day-to-day basis, members see their chapter officers. They can only see their association officers so much. So by bridging the gap between association chapters and members, it's really great to make sure that everyone is empowered and everyone is leading to the best of their ability to make sure that DECA is extraordinary and the best that it could be. So I love all of those goals. And with that said, I don't have any other questions left for you, but if you have anything you want to say or add or anything you want to ask right now would be the time to do so.
Yeah, thank you for all of your questions, and thank you so much for your time. I mean, I just wanted to ask, what interested you in kind of, DECA and HOSA? Because those are super cool CTSOs. I love DECA and HOSA, but like I love that you take on leadership roles in both of them. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so I joined DECA on accident. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I selected to take my business class before my freshman year of high school. And at my school, it's co-curricular. So if you take business, you have to be in DECA. And I was not thrilled at first about DECA. I was very hesitant. I thought like, but then I went to my first conference, and I said before, my chapter leaders really got me into it. And through that, I understood the importance of CTSOs so much more. And then right before my DECA state conference, I was also in a biomedical health class because when I first started high school, I was really interested in going into medicine because everyone in my family is a doctor. So I was kind of on that track too. What?
I can relate to that.
Oh my gosh. When you know the pressure, when your parents are doctors and when your grandparents are doctors and when your aunt's a doctor and your uncle's a doctor, they're all like, you're going to be a doctor. And I was totally on that doctor track until DECA. So thanks a lot, DECA. I'm going to be in business now thanks to you. But back to HOSA. I was in HOSA and starting out HOSA at the same time. And I learned to see like these are very similar organizations that have very similar goals just for two different career fields. And I really learned that there's so much to be taken out of both organizations. I mean, being in one CTSO was amazing. And if you put all your effort into that CTSO, that's perfectly great. I love that. I love students who are all in on DECA. But don't miss out on the other opportunities that other CTSOs have. I mean, when I get emails from like Nevada HOSA or just HOSA, the organization in total, I see that they're always having these scholarship opportunities and like these work opportunities for students to learn more about medicine. And I think that's so important for someone who is interested in medicine. Even though it may not be as much for me, I'm still going to check out those resources because you never know where it may lead. And you never know the people you may be able to meet and help you get ahead in your future. So CTSOs, join as many as you can. I know that sounds crazy, but just be a CTSO kid, okay? Be a DECA kid, be a HOSA kid, be an FCCLA kid, TSA, BPA, All of them. Just do all of
All
them.
of them.
Yeah.
All the abbreviations.
All the abbreviations. There's so many. There's like 8 different organizations. And if you're a person, if you're a person in general, there's a CTSO for you. So I mean, just look into what your state has to offer. There's so much that you can do through CTE. So that's pretty much why I decided to become chapter president and for both my HOSA and DECA chapters. And I would not have it any other way. And I just love being able to help these organizations in any way that I can.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I just have one last question because I always see you everywhere and related to DECA, and it's just so amazing seeing you everywhere. But also, I just wanted to ask any tips on networking?
Okay, so when it comes to networking, I'm going to be honest, it's very hard to get into it during your first term as an association officer. When I first started my time as a state officer, there were so many people that I didn't know, and it was kind of scary to branch out. And I saw like my state president, who was on her second term, and she's been to all these conferences before, really flourishing with all these connections that she made. And honestly, just give it like time. You have to just be very dedicated to going out there and meeting new people as much as possible. So every conference that you're going to, if you're going to WRLC or if you're going to Power Trip, ICDC is the biggest one for networking. You should be going to all these conferences in the mindset to meet new people and make new friends. Don't be afraid to drop your Instagram in a conversation and just like follow each other. And that's what DECA accounts are so amazing for. They're so great at showcasing what you're doing as an officer or as a member, but they're also great for connecting with other officers. So I'm always trying to comment as many posts as possible because I am so enthusiastic about DECA and I really love what everyone's doing as an association officer era right now, like the new year of like all these new officers, that I can't help but comment and try to create bonds with these people because I know that there's going to be so much they're accomplishing throughout this year, and I really want to help in any way possible. So my number one recommendation for networking and meeting new people is to just go into conversations with an open mind. DECA does a great job at facilitating open conversation between officers at all their conferences. If you're doing Empower, Ignite, or any of their leadership tracks at ICDC or ELS, that's a great way to get to know new people because you're usually moved around and introduced to new groups of people. But really just experience everything the organization has to offer. Go to like the DECA After Dark sessions and just talk to as many people as possible. And I'm going to WRLC and Power Trip and ICDC and basically all the conferences besides CM this year. So if you see me, come say hi and we can become DECA besties too. So that's pretty much all the tips that I have when it comes to networking. And if you're ever afraid to go up to someone, don't be, because DECA kids love talking to people. They're so social. I've never seen a group of kids that are more social than DECA kids. So just go for it.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say about
that. Yeah, that's really, really important. Thank you for your advice.
So I think that pretty much wraps us up. Without further ado, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the 5th episode of this video series. There's so much more to come, and I can't wait to see what you alongside your association officer team does next.